Hello, welcome back to Story Time with Mercy Watson's Goes for a Ride, Part 2, Chapter 7. Pikachu! Okay, Pikachu, sit here with me and we're going to be reading together. Chapter 7. In the car with the pig in it. The pig was having a very good time. The wind was tickling her ears. The sun was warm on her snout. Even though she was not the one behind the wheel, Mercy was happy. Mr. Watson was happy too. There's nothing like a fast drive to clear the mind, he shouted. Isn't that right, my dear? Oink, said Mercy. It is wonderful to go fast, said a voice from the back seat. Who is that? Said Mr. Watson. Me, said baby Lincoln. Mr. Watson looked over his shoulder. Hello, Mr. Watson, said baby. Oink, said Mercy. Hello, Mercy, said baby. What are you doing? Shouted Mr. Watson. I am having a little adventure, said baby. I am indulging in some folly. Folly? Said Mr. Watson. Mercy narrowed her eyes. Mr. Watson was looking over his shoulder at baby. He was not looking at the road. Mercy saw her chance. She gathered her strength. She leapt. Help! Mr. Watson said. Help me! Oof. Woo-wee, said baby Lincoln. What folly! What fun! What adventure! Please, said Mr. Watson, get off me. He pushed at Mercy with both hands. But Mercy did not move. She put her front hoofs on the steering wheel. She was in the driver's seat, and she intended to stay there. Ooh. Chapter 8. Back on Deckerwood Drive, Eugenia Lincoln was looking for baby. She looked in baby's bed. Baby was not there. She looked on the back step. Baby was not there neither. Baby! Shouted Eugenia. Reveal yourself at once. But baby did not reveal herself. Where could she be? Said Eugenia. And why do I think this has something to do with that pig? Eugenia marched next door. She rang the Watson's bell. Mrs. Watson, said Eugenia. Baby is missing. Goodness, said Mrs. Watson. And I believe that your pig is responsible, said Eugenia. Mercy? Said Mrs. Watson. Yes, said Eugenia. Exactly. But Mercy is not here, said Mrs. Watson. She is on her Saturday ride with Mr. Watson. Eugenia turned and looked down the road. Folly, she said. Heaven, said Mrs. Watson. You don't think? I do think, said Eugenia. That is my point exactly. I do think. And apparently I am the only one around here who does. Chapter 9. Officer Tomilelo had to go very fast to catch up with the convertible. The officer had to speed. "Is that vehicle swerving?" Officer Tomilelo asked himself. "It is," he answered himself. "It is most definitely swerving." "Is the driver of that vehicle breaking the law?" Officer Tomilelo asked. "Without a doubt," he answered. "The law is being broken. It is time to take action." Officer Tomilelo pulled up alongside the car. He shouted into his bullhorn, "Pull over!" The driver turned. The driver looked at him. The driver oinked. Oinked. "Is that pig behind the wheel?" Officer Tomilelo asked himself. "Yes," he answered himself. "Yes, that pig is most definitely behind the wheel." Again, Officer Tomilelo shouted into his bullhorn, "Pull over! Pigs cannot drive cars. Pull over immediately!" "He is absolutely correct," said Mr. Watson. "Pigs cannot drive cars, and I would like to pull over, but I can no longer feel my legs. Therefore, I cannot step on the brake pedal. Therefore, I cannot stop this car." "Oh dear," said Baby. "I think we are in trouble." Chapter 10. Back on Deco Drive, Mrs. Watson invited Eugenia inside. "There's no point in worrying alone," said Mrs. Watson. "Come in and help me fix a snack for my darlings." Mrs. Watson brought Eugenia into the kitchen. "Will you help me butter some toast?" asked Mrs. Watson. "Toast?" grumbled Eugenia. "Who cares about toast?" "Don't worry," said Mrs. Watson. She patted Eugenia on the back. "If Baby is with Mr. Watson, then she's just fine. Mr. Watson is an excellent driver." "He is a menace," said Eugenia. "Pardon?" said Mrs. Watson. "Nothing," said Eugenia. She picked up a piece of toast. She applied the tiniest amount of butter. "Oh, heavens," said Mrs. Watson. "You have to put on more than that. Mercy likes a great deal of butter on her toast." "Who cares how pigs like their toast?" Eugenia said. There, said Mrs. Watson. "I know that you are worried, but everything will work out. Baby will come home. In the meantime, why don't we just concentrate on our buttering?" "Toast is not the answer," grumbled Eugenia, but she buttered another piece anyway. Chapter 11. "You must stop the car!" shouted Officer Tomilelo. "But I cannot stop the car," said Mr. Watson. "Oink, oink!" said Mercy. She was having an excellent time. Oink, oink. I have an idea, Mr. Watson, said Baby Lincoln. If you tell me where the brake pedal is, I will apply it. The brake pedal, said Mr. Watson from underneath Mercy, is the pedal to the left of the gas pedal. The brake pedal is the pedal that I do not have my foot on. Baby unbuckled her seatbelt. She climbed into the front seat. She put her seatbelt on. She slid as close to Mr. Watson as she could. She looked down. She saw Mr. Watson's foot. She saw the pedal next to it. I have located the brake pedal, Mr. Watson, Baby announced. Excellent, said Mr. Watson. Now apply it. Baby stretched across Mr. Watson's. I am applying the brake pedal, Mr. Watson, Baby shouted. Hold on, everyone. Chapter 12. The car squeaked. The car shuddered. The car careened. The car carooned. And finally, the car stopped. Mercy was very surprised. Certainly, she was not driving the car. Certainly, she was not even in the car. Certainly, Mercy is airborne. Mr. Watson was wearing his seatbelt. He did not fly out of the car. Baby Lincoln was wearing her seatbelt. She did not fly out of the car. Officer Tomillo was safe in his police cruiser. He did not fly out of the car. Only Mercy flew. Oh dear, said Baby. It's an emergency, shouted Mr. Watson. Alert the fire department. Was that pig wearing a seatbelt? Officer Tomillo asked. No, he answered himself. That pig most certainly was not. Has laws been broken here? Asked Officer Tomillo. Most certainly, most definitely, laws have been broken here. Mr. Watson and Baby Lincoln and Officer Tomillo watched Mercy fly. They watched her land. Oof! Mr. Watson got out of the car. She ran to Mercy. He wrapped his arm around her and held her tight. My darling, my dear, he said, please tell me that you are all right. Oink, said Mercy. She snuffed Mr. Watson's neck. Hooray, said Baby. She is fine. Oh, thank you, said Mr. Watson. Thank you, thank you, thank you. He bent his head and covered the tips of Mercy's ears with kisses. You are a miracle, a prodigy, a dear, Mr. Watson said. You are a Porson wonder. But even Porson wonders cannot drive. In fact, Porson wonders should never be allowed to drive, ever. Mercy sighed. She was glad the ride was over. She felt a tiny bit dizzy and a little bit dazed. She wanted very much to go home. Chapter 13. Eugenia Lincoln and Mrs. Watson stood together on the Watsons' front porch. They watched a police car pull into the driveway. Mr. Watson, Aunt Mercy, and Baby Lincoln were all in the back seat. Guess who's driving in the front seat? As I suspected, said Eugenia. Trouble, folly, and that pig is right in the middle of it. Oh, said Mrs. Watson, my darlings, my dears. She ran out to the police car. I am so glad that you are home. The toast was starting to get cold. Mr. Watson and Baby Lincoln got out of the car. We had something of an adventure, Mrs. Watson, Mr. Watson said. Yes, said Baby. We have had an adventure, sister. Folly, replied Eugenia Lincoln. Yes, agreed Baby Lincoln happily. Folly. Laws have been broken, said Officer Tomilello. Pig, shouted Eugenia. Excuse me, said Officer Tomilello. It's all that pig's fault, said Eugenia. She pointed at Mercy. Mercy climbed out of the car. She put her nose up in the air. She sniffed. Could it be? Yes, it was. Toast. Toast with a great deal of butter on it. What could be better? Chapter 14. Laws have been broken, said Officer Tomilello. Tickets must be written. Officer, do you like toast? Mrs. Watson asked. Toast? Said Officer Tomilello. Why? Do I like toast? Why? Yes, I do. I do like toast. Why don't you come inside and have some? Asked Mrs. Watson. Why don't I come inside and have some toast? Asked Officer Tomilello. Said Officer Tomilello. I can't think of a reason not to. Lovely, said Mrs. Watson. She clapped her hands together. Right this way. What nonsense, grumbled Eugenia Lincoln. Toast is not the answer. No, sister, said Baby Lincoln, but it does smell heavenly. She took hold of Eugenia's hand. Well, said Eugenia, it has been expertly buttered. And so that Saturday, Officer Tommy Lello and Eugenia Lincoln and Baby Lincoln and Mr. and Mrs. Watson's and Mercy Watson's all sat around the table together and ate hot buttered toast. Did Mercy Watson have extra helpings? She did, and so did Officer Tommy Lello. The end. All right, that's all, folks. What do you say, Pikachu?